Before getting into why I believe this settlement agreement between ABC, George Stephanopoulos, and Donald Trump is so egregious, let me remind you what Judge Lewis Kaplan, who presided over the E. Jean Carroll case, said in two separate orders. Let me read you order number one, just a small portion of it. Federal Judge Lewis Kaplan, who presided over both jury verdicts, which unanimously found in favor of E. Jean Carroll, right? This is what Judge Kaplan said. The jury did not award Miss Carroll more than $2 million in damages for groping her breast through her clothing. Wrongful as that might have been, there was no evidence at all of such behavior. Instead, the proof convincingly establishes, and the jury implicitly found, that Mr. Trump deliberately and forcibly penetrated Miss Carroll's vagina with his fingers, causing immediate pain and long-lasting emotional and psychological harm. Mr. Trump's argument therefore ignores the bulk of evidence at trial, misinterprets the jury's verdict, and mistakenly focuses on the New York penal law definition of, quote, rape, to the exclusion of the meaning of that word as it is often used in everyday life, and of the evidence of what actually occurred between Miss Carroll and Mr. Trump. That's order number one. Order number two, in a separate order, Federal Judge Lewis Kaplan wrote as such. As the court explained in its recent decision denying Mr. Trump's motion for a new trial on damages and other relief in Carroll 2, based on all the evidence at trial and the jury's verdict as a whole, the jury's finding that Mr. Trump, quote, sexually abused Miss Carroll implicitly determined that he forcibly penetrated her digitally. In other words, that Mr. Trump in fact did, quote, rape Miss Carroll, as the term commonly is used and understood in context outside of the New York penal law. Folks, I'm not giving you the Ben Meiselas narrative of what happened. I am just reading for you the order by the court. I'm reading a judicial finding that was made by a well-respected federal judge who presided over both E. Jean Carroll case. I want to give you that as context. So with that as context, let me give you the analysis now of the underlying settlement. Just to do that, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let me show you when the news broke, when it happened right away. Here was the breaking news bulletin I put out. Remember what I just said, though, as you're listening to this, so you remember what is it that the federal judge in the underlying case said. And let me just put it in this perspective for you as well. E. Jean Carroll has not seen a single penny as a sexual assault victim. $0 from the case thus far. Donald Trump posted a bond that an insurance company helped him post. She hasn't gotten a single penny yet. Donald Trump gets $15 million through his presidential library and his attorney's fees covered from Disney/ABC and George Stephanopoulos for how they reported on what occurred between Donald Trump and E. Jean Carroll. So Trump gets that money? Seriously? Watch the full context of what I say, though, in this next segment. Let's watch it. This is utterly outrageous what ABC just did. One by one, we've seen corporate media fold, kiss the ring, and not just obey in advance, but go through humiliation ritual after humiliation ritual. Here is what happened. ABC has announced that it will be paying $15 million to a charitable foundation controlled and or run by Donald Trump for Trump's future presidential library as part of a settlement when Donald Trump, in my opinion, filed what might have been the single most frivolous lawsuit against ABC and George Stephanopoulos. I am waiting to hear what George Stephanopoulos has to say, but shame on you, Stephanopoulos. Shame on you, ABC, and anybody who works at ABC. Utterly atrocious and despicable. Let me remind you all what this lawsuit was and how despicable it is and was that ABC is doing, and how it is more important than ever that we stand up and we just shut down corporate media at this point, because they are nothing more than a Donald Trump fascist mouthpiece. It is utterly disgusting. It is utterly despicable. And what I promise you here is that we here at Legal AF, we here at the MeidasTouch Network will never obey in advance. We will never kiss the ring. You will literally have to take Michael Popak, myself, and our contributors to the gulag. We're not running away. We're not freaking scared of this crap. How dare ABC? For real, I am pissed at the start of this episode. Again, let me remind you what this lawsuit was about. As you all remember, Donald Trump was found liable for sexual assault in the E. Jean Carroll civil case. Not a criminal case, a civil case in New York federal court. A jury, a federal jury, found unanimously that Donald Trump sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll in that federal case. Subsequently, there was another federal case where Donald Trump was found liable for defamation. When you add up Donald Trump's defamation verdicts against him, as well as the sexual assault verdict, Donald Trump had to post a bond nearing $100 million for his despicable actions. Now, in New York, there are technical distinctions between, I'll give a trigger warning here again, because I'm going to be describing some aspects of sexual assault. There's a distinction in New York law, a technical one, in how the law is just written between sexual assault and a rape. And that's the difference between a finger and the genitals. So what the jury found in New York is that Donald Trump sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll essentially with a finger. And did not say that he did it with genitals. So that's the way the verdict went down, sexually assaulting with the finger. Now, we've all heard Donald Trump on audio saying that he grabs women by their genitals, and he says they let you do it when you're famous and rich like him. We've heard other statements of Donald Trump talking about inspecting women at beauty pageants, right? We've heard all of that. So subsequent to that civil verdict, George Stephanopoulos on his weekend show on ABC described Donald Trump's conduct as rape. Now, the federal judge in New York, in the underlying order, one of the orders, what the federal judge had said was that Donald Trump's conduct based on, even though there's a distinction in the technical language, the federal judge said that the technicalities aside, one could basically describe the conduct as being the same thing. But there was that technical distinction. But the federal judge even basically said that that they were basically the same thing. So what Donald Trump's federal lawsuit for defamation against George Stephanopoulos, what it was about was Donald Trump saying, George Stephanopoulos went on TV and called my conduct a rape, when in fact it was a sexual assault. And you've defamed me, you've harmed my reputation. How dare you call a digital penetration with fingers that a jury found sexual assault to be a rape? You've offended me. I'm suing you for defamation of my character. So that's what the lawsuit was about. Donald Trump said he was suing for billions of dollars. He got the headlines right. So then there was a development this past week on that front as well. The big development was that the magistrate judge ordered Donald Trump to sit for a deposition. Donald Trump was therefore kind of cornered. The magistrate judge also ordered George Stephanopoulos to sit for a deposition. That deposition of Trump and Stephanopoulos under oath before a video camera that would eventually become public because court records are public records, right? That was going to be scheduled for this week based on the magistrate's order. Donald Trump was the plaintiff in this action. Trump was the person who filed the lawsuit. So we've been giving analysis here on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF that there was basically no way for Donald Trump to wiggle out of this deposition or to squirm out of it, unlike his other cases, because he's the plaintiff. So one of the things we were saying is, well, wow, now George Stephanopoulos' lawyers get to ask Donald Trump about sexual assault, about Donald Trump's distinction in his mind between sexual assault and rape. You could ask Donald Trump about all of the other statements that Donald Trump made about sexually assaulting women in the past, or Donald Trump saying in the past that he grabs women by their you-know-what. What did you mean when you made those types of comments, right? What were you referring to when you talked about inspecting people in your beauty pageants? What did you mean by that? You know, going on and on and on about that. And Trump was never going to sit for that deposition. Let me give you another corollary example here of somebody who's, I think, paid a steep price for being courageous in the face of kind of Trumpism. But think about the Michael Cohen case for a second. Remember, Donald Trump sued Michael Cohen for $500 million. Remember, then Cohen demanded Donald Trump's deposition. And then what happened? Donald Trump dismissed the case right before the deposition. So that's clearly Donald Trump was not going to sit for a deposition with ABC where he was going to be asked questions about sexual assault and about what damages are you claiming, and you're saying you were humiliated by this. Here, play this tape, play this tape. Here's what you said here, Donald. Here's what you said here, Donald. Remember when you said this? So your whole point of your case here is that you think that the distinction between a rape and a sexual assault, a finger versus genitals, that's what you're suing over? You would have had Trump looking right into the camera based on the magistrate judge's order. So the magistrate judge says you got to sit in 5 days. So, you know, any traditional legal analysis with our justice system, with our civil system, any analysis goes, well, look, this, for all intents and purposes, this case is over. If you're the lawyers representing ABC right now, you go, Trump ain't sitting for this deposition right now before the inauguration. That ain't happening. Trump's not going to answer these questions. And, you know, if you're the lawyers, you're like, we're going to, you know, one of the things they were teeing up is a motion called summary judgment, which is like a motion to dismiss the case before it even goes to trial. Before the trial actually takes place. That's a summary judgment motion. Once you get the depositions, you do a summary judgment motion where you say Trump has no facts to even claim that he's been defamed in a situation like this. And I think that ABC, in my opinion, ABC would have clearly won that, and Trump would never have sat for a deposition. So then, you know, an hour ago or so, or an hour and a half ago, before we're about to do the show, all of a sudden there's an announcement. There's a settlement. And the settlement is that ABC is paying $15 million to a future charitable foundation for Donald Trump. Total and utter capitulation. What are you paying? There's no, in my opinion, no legal basis at all for Donald Trump to file to file this lawsuit in the first place. Or in my opinion, I think that there's no way that Donald Trump was going to ultimately prevail in this lawsuit. And then just an utter capitulation, just set his deposition, take his deposition, ask him all of those questions right there, and force him on those issues. What are you doing, ABC? It is utterly despicable, utter cowardice. Here, let's just pull it up right here. And they settled on you want to know how extra cowardice? They settled on a Saturday. I'm wondering what George Stephanopoulos is going to say. Oh, and then ABC and George Stephanopoulos are going to issue a written apology based on this. Here's how Kyle Cheney puts it. A day after Trump and George Stephanopoulos were ordered to appear for depositions, they settled the case. ABC's agreed to make a $15 million contribution to the Trump Presidential Museum Foundation and air an apology for mischaracterizing the E. Jean Carroll verdict. Are you freaking kidding me, ABC? Honestly, I don't know how people are going to watch ABC. How can you watch a network that didn't just obey in advance, that totally and utterly capitulated? This is, I mean, look, the Jeff Bezos $1 million inauguration, shameful, despicable, not shocking that it's Bezos. Doesn't surprise me that Bezos would do that, but it's despicable. Mark Zuckerberg, Doesn't surprise me that Mark Zuckerberg, would do that. Shameful, disgusting, despicable. You pick your words right here. This ABC thing, in my view, so much freaking worse. So much worse. A $15 million settlement, a kiss. Are you absolute? Look at this. Now, therefore, in consideration of the foregoing mutual covenants and agreements set forth, and the parties agreeing to release one another of any related claims or liability, and for the good and valuable consideration recited herein, the receipt and sufficiency for which is acknowledged, ABC shall cause a transfer in the amount of $15 million to be made to a presidential foundation and museum to be established by or for the plaintiff as presidents of the United States of America have established in the past. And by the way, you know where this money's coming from, right? ABC is owned by Disney. This money's coming from Disney right now. So anybody who's working there right now, what are you thinking about this? $15 million to this library in advance, where George Stephanopoulos described the conduct one way when Trump was found liable of sexual assaulting a woman in federal court. Look yourself in the freaking mirror if you work at Disney right now. Look yourself in the freaking mirror if you work for ABC right now. Let's not forget what the underlying case was about, that Trump was found liable for sexually assaulting a woman, and her name was E. Jean Carroll. And you're going to talk about over here $15 million. The charitable contribution shall be made within 10 days of the effective date of this agreement to an escrow account to be established by plaintiff's counsel, who will serve as the escrow agent for this specific charitable contribution. Oh, what, ABC and Disney? You're going to get a charitable write-off for this? Is that how you view it? All we have to do is humiliate ourselves, get a tax write-off for $15 million, look ridiculous, and then maybe Donald Trump won't go after us. Maybe he won't go after us. You're a news organization. What are you doing? What the hell are you doing, ABC, Disney, George Stephanopoulos? How ridiculous. Remember throughout the campaign, Donald Trump, George Stephanopoulos, John... And you back down to that? You back down to that? You are utterly, utterly despicable. Take a look at this. Within one calendar day of the effective dates, defendants, ABC, shall publish the following statement. This is their apology, by adding it as an editor's note to the bottom of the March 10th, 2024 online article. ABC News and George Stephanopoulos regret statements regarding President Donald J. Trump made during an interview by George Stephanopoulos with Representative Nancy Mace on ABC's This Week on March 10th, 2024. Utterly despicable and shameful. Well, there you have it, folks. Thank you for watching that. Now hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million subscribers.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.